So President Putin and Biden have had a summit, and we're really not interested in anything they have to say for the most part, because either they don't say it at all or they lie through their teeth. We're doing Putin first, and you're going to see as we go through this, he's very irritated, and even though they refuse to translate the beginning, I have no idea why. We're going to point out some things.
Я в вашем распоряжении. Думаю, что нет необходимости вступительные слова какие-то долгие произносить.
I don't know what he said, but stupidus sounds like stupid. That's just hopeful thinking, but he does seem quite irritable. Now, he has pain issues, and when you're dealing with someone who has pain issues, it does have effects on the body language, but I'm not seeing anything else. He's not given a whole lot of stretch to try and work out this pain. He's just tight, and he's working off energy, so to speak. A stretch would be, a long stretch. Working off energy is constant movement. So we're seeing irritability. Now, mind you, this is right after dealing with Biden. So it's like, oh, it'd have been nice to see what he looked like when he went in versus when he came out to see if this was 100% from Biden. I'm going to assume that it is.
Тема примерно, наверное, всем известна. Стратегическая стабильность, кибербезопасность.
See the arm thrown up in the air? There's more like an exasperation. So whatever he's actually saying, he's got that long drawn in breath as he goes through this. He's throwing his arms up in the air. Exasperation, irritability. Doesn't really say that it went well, no matter what's coming out of his mouth. Now, he did sit there and took a question from a Canadian reporter that I thought was really good. We're going to go to that one.
One final question from a journalist from Canada.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Tamara Teresco from Radio-Canada. You said to a couple of my colleagues you wanted unbiased. Do you give a translation?
No.
Do you hear me now?
No.
По-русски?
Не хотят Канаду.
He speaks English. I don't know why he pretends he doesn't, other than a stall tactic, and it works really well.
Yeah, they didn't want to.
No, нет перевода.
There's no interpretation. I can't hear it.
I will try and repeat.
Сейчас, может, на другой канал перейдут. Попробуйте.
Maybe you will try on a different channel.
Нет, я не слышу.
Yeah? Nope,
Вообще
nope,
ничего.
I can't hear anything. I don't hear anything whatsoever.
Сейчас, секундочку.
1 second.
Извините, пожалуйста.
Хорошо?
Sorry.
Есть звук. Повторите, пожалуйста, сначала.
Thank you. I'm
Sorry, please, if you wouldn't mind repeating.
Tamara Teresco from Radio-Canada in Moscow. You said to a couple of my colleagues you wanted unbiased, fair questions and coverage. I have a fair question for you. It actually comes from my 9-year-old daughter, who asked me before I left to come here, what is the big deal with this summit? And it's quite a complicated answer for a 9-year-old. So I'd like you to explain to us, in your own words, Mr. President, why is this relationship so complicated? And also, she'd like to know, and I'd like to know, why are young people not allowed to protest in Russia?
Now, other than the BS one at the end, this is actually a really good question. She has told Putin that this is from a child. And it sounds like, a typical kid thing. Like, what's the big deal? Why is everybody making a big hoopla about this? So it puts Putin in his mindset of why is this a big deal, but from his own perspective. It's kind of like, if you ask a dog why water is important, he would tell you because he's thirsty. But if you ask a fish why water is important, it's because it's where he lives. And that's why this is such a good question, because it puts him in the mindset from his perspective.
Да, это здорово, что ваша
Yes, that's
дочь
great.
интересуется этими
It's great that your
вопросами.
9-year-old daughter is
Ответ
interested
очень
in these
прост.
questions. The answer
Надо
is very
посмотреть
simple.
вокруг себя и сказать, видишь, как
You
прекрасен
need to
этот
look around
мир.
yourself. You need to see
Yeah.
how beautiful the world is.
Взрослые люди, руководители двух стран,
And adults,
крупнейших
the leaders
ядерных
of
держав,
two countries, the
встречаются для
biggest
того,
nuclear
чтобы
powers,
сделать
are
этот мир
meeting.
безопасным,
They're doing that in order to make the world
Надежным.
safer, more reliable,
процветающим домом для
and
всех
a
жителей
place for
нашей
everyone, a home for everyone
Они
to
будут
flourish, for
обсуждать
all
вопросы,
those who live on our
связанные
planet.
со страшным оружием,
And they're doing that, they're addressing
Которые
issues that have to
нужно
do with a terrible
ограничивать
weapon,
и
which
выработать
needs to
общие
be
правила
limited. They need to draw up common
Они будут
rules
говорить о
on
защите окружающей
refraining from
среды,
using those weapons. They talked
о том,
about
чтобы
protecting the
реки
environment.
So as you listen to him, he's being himself. I don't ever see him not being stiff and kind of dodgy. I kind of put that towards his hip pain. So for him, this is his body singing. It looks kind of weird, but I've watched him so much to see that this is pretty much normal. Even when he toys with the journalist, this is normal. And from his perspective, they're trying to prevent nuclear war. And they want rules in place that those weapons aren't used, or at least in certain areas, which is a weird way to have a rule. But, what do I know?
Been a long day for y'all. I know it was easy getting into the pre-meeting. There was no problem getting through those doors, was it? Was there? Anyway, hello everyone. Well, I've just finished the last meeting of this week's long trip, the U.S.-Russian summit. And I know there were a lot of hype around this meeting, but it's pretty straightforward to me, the meeting. One, there's no substitute, as those of you who have covered me for a while know, for face-to-face dialogue between leaders. None. And President Putin and I had share a unique responsibility.
He really is dumber than a box of rocks. I wonder if he even knows he was there. And at this point, you're just praying he has handlers, because could you imagine having a meeting with him? Maybe that's why he was so irritated. But anyways, for those of you who've been watching me since the beginning, one of my favorite things to do is scan through and look for huge body movements, because that indicates something. And I certainly don't want to watch this fool speak. So we get to this spot and we see a huge body movement. It's like, oh, what is this? What's going on in this particular spot? And as you watch,
I thought I just saw David. There he is.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the run-up to this discussion, there's been a lot of talk about the two countries spilling down into a Cold War. And I'm wondering if there was anything that you emerged from in the discussion that made you think that
With your permission, I'm going to take my coat off. The sun is hot.
and that's the big movement. It's like, oh, he doesn't really do anything throughout this video, but all of a sudden he takes his coat off and he starts the movement into that. He puts the glasses down, so he's already in the avoidance of this question. The Cold War, the new Cold War. Now, for those of us, as I mentioned just previously in the beginning of this, how active is he in this? I'm guessing he's pretty active, which, dear God.
anything that would make you think that Mr. Putin has decided to move away from his fundamental role as a disruptor, particularly a disruptor of NATO and the United States. And if I could also just follow up on your description.
So he's not even really paying attention to him as he goes into this taking his coat off and going to put it on the ground. He's not looking at him. He's not interacting with anything. He's not interacting with anyone, not even asking someone to come take his coat, which other presidents, if they do something like this or they get something, they'll look for somebody, the assistant, to come and take it so that they don't put their clothes on the ground.
Of how you gave him a list of critical infrastructure in the United States, did you lay out very clearly what it was that the penalty would be for interfering in that critical infrastructure? Did you leave that vague? Did he respond in any way to it?
Let me answer your first. Well, I'll answer your second question first. I pointed out to him we have significant cyber capability, and he knows it. He doesn't know exactly what it is, but it's significant. And if in fact they violate these basic norms, we will respond.
So there you have a bluff. I pointed out to him we have significant. And he gives you his crocodile smile. You've seen that crocodile smile. If you've been watching, you know exactly what that is. It's like, oh, okay, so our first line is BS. So this question that gives the most stress, that elicits the biggest movement throughout this whole thing, the first answer you get is BS.
Cyber. He knows. In the cyber way. Number two, I think that the last thing he wants now is a Cold War. without quoting him, which I don't think is appropriate, let me ask you a rhetorical question. You got a multi-thousand-mile border with China. China's moving ahead, hell-bent on election, as they say.
So in this part, as he goes into this opinion, and that's exactly what it is. It's an opinion. I don't think he wants to have a Cold War. Did you really talk to him? Those kind of responses that you get from someone who's acting as dodgy as he is, he's turning from the side, he's not looking at the person who answered the question, he's not even looking at the camera, who Lord knows who he's looking at, and I'm going to give you an opinion, is what he decides to do. Generally means, from the perspective of the person giving you this BS, their efforts in the conversation didn't go the way they anticipated. So if I'm a snake, I go in to manipulate Mother Mouse away from her children so that I may eat them easily. But in my manipulation tactics, Mother Mouse never left. Now, Mother Mouse may not be wise to the fact that the snake was trying to get her away from her babies, but smart enough not to leave them alone with the snake. And the snake, when he comes out to tell everyone, I don't think she's going to stay there very long, because he never actually said anything. The conversation never went there to elicit fear from the other party or knowledge from the other party to tip them off on their real intentions. So you can't really answer these questions because you went in there trying to manipulate. But that Mother Mouse is a hell of a lot smarter than that snake.
Just to let our subscribers know, Finding Q has been released, and it should be pretty interesting for anybody who's curious as to know who could possibly be behind Q. I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Fero. Fero is one of the few cryptocurrency projects that I respect. Unlike most other cryptocurrencies, Fero is focused on safeguarding your financial privacy without compromising on trustlessness, which means no third parties are required, and transactions are private by default. Fero also has an exciting roadmap to look forward to. Features such as Instant Send, where payments can both be sent and confirmed within seconds. There's also Elysium, which adds tokenization functionality similar to Ethereum, but it also enables these assets to enjoy Fero's privacy technology. There's many more things on the roadmap, and if you'd like to learn more, head over to fero.org.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.